let's talk about the law, because the Supreme Court, I thought, was pretty darn clear in April when they established that the law on single-sex spaces was very clear. It was based on biological sex, not what a man or a woman thinks they are on a Tuesday afternoon. It's about what you actually are, not what a piece of paper says, the gender recognition certificate, not whether you've got a wig on or you've put on a pair of fake boobs. No. Are you or are you not biologically female or biologically male? That will decide which toilet or changing room or other single-sex facility you use. But apparently not in the case of, well, we know Parliament right now, the Treasury is flouting this as well, but also numerous universities, University College London, Edinburgh, Southampton, Bath and Nottingham, apparently all expecting female students to share toilets and changing rooms with male students who claim that they think that they're women. Well, let's talk about this with Helen Joyce. She's Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters. She's also author of the book Trans, Gender Identity and the New Battle for Women's Rights. A very good morning to you, Helen.
Hi, Julia.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, I mean, you were there at the Supreme Court with this amazing decision that was basically, I mean, the fact that we needed a Supreme Court to tell us what difference between the sexes was mind-blowing. But lots of people were saying at the time, that's it, it's all done and dusted, move on. We've still got sporting bodies who haven't got to grips with this. We've got government organisations. We've got numerous charities, the arts, and universities. Some young women being told they're going to have to share facilities, probably in single-sex dorms and the like, with men who claim that they are women, but because that still counts as being a woman according to them. That is a flagrant ignorance of the law, is it not?
I think it's deliberate. I was sitting in court, as you say, in April when that judgment was handed down, and a very experienced lawyer friend turned to me afterwards and said, there's nothing left for us to do. Well, it turns out that a lot of people are pretending that they don't know what the court said, which, as you say, is very clear. It said that in the Equality Act, male and female mean biology, not paperwork or identity. And the only basis for offering single-sex spaces is on the basis of the Equality Act, because otherwise it's sex discrimination. You have to be permitted to do sex discrimination. So I've explained that to you in, 15 seconds?
Yeah.
Everybody who asks a lawyer or reads it knows what's happening, but they're all thumb-sucking, stroking their chins.
We're waiting for the Equality and Human Rights Commission to issue some definitive guidance, which they'll ignore as well.
Exactly. I mean, why would you pay attention to the HRC if you're not paying attention to the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court, when it said that was the law the second it said it. Imagine if this was a tax judgment. The next day your accountant would be on to you saying, oh, we had misinterpreted the law. Act quickly or you're going to be charged.
Yeah, and indeed the key point the Supreme Court made was not that they had changed the law. That was what the law had always been. And it was people... I mean, they weren't misinterpreting the law. They were willfully disregarding the law, and they're still doing so now. Could these universities just simply slap on these are unisex facilities sign? Just literally, if you put on a male and female sign, then they're not flouting the law.
Well, it depends. For their workers, their employees, they can't, no, because they have to give decent facilities to workers, and that in most situations will mean actual single sex.
So women, in particular, women have the right to not have to get changed or go to the toilet with men.
That's right. That's right. The only way you can get around having female and male toilets is if all your facilities or lots of your facilities are just single user.
Yeah.
Students, it's less clear. We'd have to make an argument about indirect discrimination, and I think that would work, but that would mean going back to court. I mean, if they went all gender neutral everywhere. So we are taking some court cases. We have threatened legal action against the Scottish Government, and we are applying for JR of judicial review for the Hampstead ponds, where there's a ladies' pond, a men's pond and a mixed pond, and they're running the ladies and men's on the basis that if you say you're a lady or a man, in you come.
And again, what I love about that is that people say, well, but the trans-identified people, they're like, no, there's literally a pond which you can use, which is the unisex pond. But I mean, that's the thing. That's such choice for someone to go swimming in Hampstead ponds. I mean, I agree with bringing the case on that because these are principal cases. But we're also talking about a lot of, 18-year-old, young women, and I don't want to describe all students as vulnerable, but they're new adults, they're young people. They're in a new environment, and then they're being forced to share sort of what would normally have been, and certainly in my day and your day, would have been single-sex facilities with men. And we're constantly told by the trans-identified men, because that's what they are. I hate the articles talk about biological males. Men. That's the word, men.
I agree.
Just don't get what they're identifying is they're still men. The claim we often hear, certainly on social media, is, but we can't be in the toilets with the men because we might be harassed or beaten or sexually assaulted, so we need to be in with the women. But Helen, correct me, was there a reason why women didn't want men in the toilets with them in the first place? Wasn't that the exact same reason?
I always think that when they open their mouths, they tell on themselves, you know. They're acknowledging the reason why we have single-sex spaces, which is that men can be dangerous to women.
Not all men, but enough men that it's a serious concern. Yeah.
I mean, the universities are in a bit of a difficult position because they have spent the last 10 years kowtowing to activists in their own ranks, academics, but also to very radicalised young people who are taught gender identity stuff in school and turn up believing that unisex toilets or, you know, gender self-ID is the 21st century's great civil rights movement. And now they're going to have to say to them, you know, no, it's not lawful to do it this way. Some of them have, lots of them haven't. And UCL I'm particularly upset about because I did my own PhD there in the 1990s and it was great. So yeah, it's lack of courage, and it's also having to admit that they were wrong for 10 years.
Well, you've got to remember though, but
staff bigots.
They don't think they're wrong because the people in charge are fully signed up to this madness. That's part of the problem. So much of the educational establishment, from nursery schools that celebrate pride to primary schools to secondary schools that, you know, invite in, you know, trans-identified men who are basically cross-dressers to address their children. And like universities, they are imbued in this stuff. I mean, we are going to have the Supreme Court judgment is not going to, and the Cass review into the Tavistock, it's not going to get this out of our educational institutions. Our children are being propagandized right now today.
I think we need a de-radicalisation programme, and it starts with enforcing the law on toilets, because if you're insisting that you know what biological sex is when it comes to toilets and changing rooms, it makes it harder to teach nonsense in the classroom or lecture theatre.
Yeah.
But it's a long way back, Julia. We've been doing this for, you know, close on 20 years now.
I said this on the day of the Supreme Court judgment that I didn't think that this was going to be quite the victory that we thought, because if we were going to do things based on common sense, we'd have done it by now. Helen Joyce, you keep up the fantastic work. Honestly, let's crowdfund those legal actions against those universities. Director of Advocacy at Sex Matters, Helen Joyce, thank you very much.